Welcome back to part 3 of creating moving art along a real wall. In this episode we're going to tackle the monstrous task of rotoscoping me or whoever you filmed out. Now you either love it or you hate it, but there comes a time in every animator's life where we have to do it, so let's get on with it. So, I am still stuck behind our new wall patches. We need to cut me out and bring me to the front so that we can layer in graphics and animation in between. This process is called rotoscoping. I'm going to show you 2 ways in Adobe After Effects. The first way is the quickest and the easiest, but it gives you less control and not such desirable results on complicated shots like this, and that's using Adobe After Effects Rotobrush, version 2 that we're on. The second way I'm going to show you is using Mocha AE, or Mocha Pro if you've got it, which is more advanced. We're going to be drawing in splines. You get a lot better result, but it's a lot harder work. It takes longer. And I tell you, you rotoscopers, you deserve a medal. Either that or a footballer's salary. So let's crack on with the first version I'm going to show you, which is Adobe After Effects Rotobrush. So we're going to start by duplicating our main footage. So let's select our backplate here, Control D to duplicate it. I'm just going to drag it up to the top and then I'm going to solo it out. Now we don't need the 3D camera tracker effect that came with it, so we can delete that. Now we need the best pixel information, the best resolution possible to use the Rotobrush. So I'm just going to change the preview resolution to full, and I'm also going to go back out to my project panel. I'm going to turn off proxy. So now we're left with the full resolution, which is going to run a bit slower. You can see it sort of chugging away unless you've sort of previewed it, but that's what we need. So we're just going to close all these panels down. I'm going to hit the U key to collapse. Okay, and now we're ready to start using the Rotobrush tool. Now, to do the Rotobrush, we need to double click the footage so it actually takes it into its own viewport here. You can see we're on layer and then the name of the footage. Okay, so what we do is we select the Rotobrush tool up here. It's this little icon here. I'm going to select it and I'm going to let's just pick a framework. You can do this from the beginning, but I'm just going to give you an example. I'm just going to go to somewhere like here. What you do is you get this little icon. You see this green. Now that is your brush size. Now you can hold down the control key, click and drag to sort of, a bit like Photoshop, to change your brush size. And I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to get Control Plus to zoom in, and I'm going to start sort of drawing in sections. Now it's pretty intelligent. All I've got to do is sort of make a little stroke here, something like this. And there you go. You can see it's outlined my jacket and it's done it sort of, pretty well here. I'm going to turn down the size of my brush again because it does work better with it off. Now straight away I'm going to go over to our effect, which is now added, and I'm going to change quality to best because we want it on best. Now you can see a little green tick here. It's actually pre-rendered that frame. Now let's zoom in. Let's have a little zoom in on this window and just see, let's have a look at the details. So I'm just going to click here and zoom in, and as you can see it's done it pretty well. It's a little bit jaggedy, we might have to clean up some areas, but it's not too bad. Now we want to include other bits, so I'm also now going to hold down the shift key and I'm just going to draw a quick line in my face here, and as you can see here, look at this section here, it's actually not done it properly here. So I'm going to hold down the control key and reduce my brush size, and then I'm going to use the Alt key. So hold down the Alt key, it turns to red, and now we're just going to draw a little stroke here and cut it out. And it's done it too much, so then we just draw a stroke, try and draw along the edge to see if it helps it. And there you go. And then still a little bit left in there. And there you go. So you can see now how this Rotobrush tool sort of works. It's not exact, it's not accurate, but it's quick. So let's just draw. If you draw like a little stroke like this, it will try and add in my hat. But if you try and draw it around the edge, you'll get a sort of bit better result. So you need to sort of play with the results. And as you can see, the color information from the wall to my hat is pretty similar. So it probably has a little bit of a hard time recognizing it. So I'm just going to draw something like this, see if it helps. And there you go, that's not too bad. Let's just fill it in here. And you only need to do one frame and it will sort of try and work it out, which I'll show you. So now let's go down to sort of the lower leg region. Let's zoom out and let's just see if we can get away with just drawing something like this. Let's just see what happens. There you go. Now that was pretty good because it's got sort of better balance of color information. It's dark blue against gray. And now let's go down to the lower leg here. And I'm going to just draw around the feet here and here And let's just see what we get. So we get around the grass, and we don't need that bit, but it's missed a bit of the leg here. So let's zoom in again, and I'm just going to draw down here. So you don't have to hold the shift key. You can, but you don't have to. But when you're cutting stuff out, you have to hold the alt key, okay? So it's a little bit ragged here. I'm going to hold the alt key, and this is where you don't get 100% control. You have to go in and sort of edit these bits, and we can refine the edges in a minute. I'll show you that. Let's just go up to here. Let's just check what this is looking like now. Now around the face, it's still a little bit funny here, so I'm just going to zoom right in now. There you go, it's a little bit better. I'd like to cut this tiny bit gap out here. That's better, okay? So let's sort of zoom out here. Okay, so that's not too that's not too bad. Now the good thing about the Rotobrush is that you only have to do sort of, you know, one frame and it does the rest for you, but you probably will have to touch it up. Now I'm just going to grab see this little tip mark here. I don't want to do the whole shot. That would take a while. I just want to demonstrate this. So I'm just going to drag this into somewhere like here, because it does have to process every single frame you do. And I'm going to go to the side one here and just going to drag this into something like this. And like this. And now I'm just going to hit the play key or the space bar just to see what we get from here. Let's just see what we get. Okay, let's just hit the play bar from here, and you can see it's turning green and it's doing the other frames. And you can see it needs cutting out here. It's lost it up there. So you can hit the space bar to pause, and now you've got this green bar where it's sort of round previewed. Okay, so now what you can do is you can refine this. So let's just zoom in here. You can see it's missed out this bit. So we can go to here and then hit the alt key like we did before and just sort of draw across the top and see if that helps. There you go, it's cut it out there. And again, there it needs a bit more here. See, it's not quite exact here. There you go, that's much better. So let's just skip through the frames. There you go, and it's sort of fixed those frames, and now we need to go back and do these ones. So as you can see, it's quite time consuming. Now on a simpler shot, I need to go back over with the plus key there. That's a little bit better. Now with a simpler shot, the Rotobrush can work very well. Now let me just zoom out and let me just show you what you can do here. Now if we hit the first key, what it do is it'll give you the matte. It will show you exactly the matte. The second key is the alpha boundary exactly as we had it, and the third is the alpha where it will show you with sort of almost like a selection tool you get in Photoshop where it masks it out, and here you can actually change the color. So you can say, okay, I want to change this to a blue, okay, and there you go, it changes it. Now let's have a little look. Now we can go back to say here, and let's just move this and just check out the edge. Now you see it's quite rough here. So there are a few options over here. Now what you can do is you can feather this so you can soften the edge even more. As you can see, that softens it out. But you know, it can get too much. Now if I whack this right up, let me just go right up to something, there you go, see it blurs the edge. Okay, I'm going to undo that. And then you've also got a contrast, so you can take that up and down. If we take that down, you'll get a sort of different result. It'll get less jaggedy. And then we've got a shift edge. Now I can minus this, and watch this. It brings in the edge. You see that? It jumped in quite a few pixels. Let's go back out. There you go. It's quite subtle. Let me zoom in. It's probably because I've got a bit of 4K footage as well. Let me just select here, zoom in. I'm just going to show you the shift edge again. I'm going to go to -100. There you go. You can see it shrinking and increasing, shrinking and increasing. And this can really help. So let's just go to here. You can see the boundary has gone out now. So we can shift edge. So if you're getting stuck and you're getting quite a lot of white halo, you can sort of shift this by sort of, maybe 10%, and you will cut that out. You can also now just click back to your main tutorial, and you could see this. There you go. But we haven't actually processed it yet. So let's go back into here. I'm going to zoom out, and I've only got a small section. Now when you're ready to go, now you can, let's just take the shift edge back to say just something like -10 for now. when you are ready, when you've been through this, you take a lot more care and you go through and paint some of your frames and some of the edge feathering and get it how you want. Then what you do is you must hit this freeze button, and if you roll over, what you'll see is you get that says it cache and lock Rotobrush and refine edge propagation. So what it does is it locks everything in and it will fill up the caching. You can see it's caching here already, but you need to freeze it on top of that as well. So if I hit freeze, it will now go through freezing each of the frames. Now, if I had selected the whole frame range, it would have gone through the whole shot, which I don't want it to do, because just for the tutorial purposes, I just want to show you just this little result. So we're just going to let this run through. And now it's frozen, and now we can go back to our main composition, and you can see it cut out on top. We've got it solo, so we can unsolo it, or solo it again, and you can see the cutout. So we only did a few frames in between, so you could sort of RAM preview that. You can see it RAM previewed, sorry, we did the in and out. So where you get the footage come back in is where I set my in and out points left and right here, just for the purposes of the tutorial. So let's go back to our main composition, and from here, let's just see, from here I'll press the B key to move our workspace in, and I'll just go to somewhere like here. I'll hit the N key, and now we can do a quick RAM preview. Now we're on full resolution, so let's just take this back down to third, and now we can also load in our, actually the resolution is quite low. Let me see if I can do a better quality preview for you, just for the purpose of the tutorial. Let's hit the 0 key, do a quick RAM preview. As you can see, now you can see the mistakes popping through, the bits of the hat which was giving us our trouble. Okay? So there's the basics. Now let me just show you one more feature of the Rotobrush, which would be if you had a very complicated edge. So I'm going to go back into here. Now what you can do is you can actually now unfreeze this. So you click this and it unfreezes it, and we can edit it again. So now I'm going to go to along here. You can see it had trouble with the hats. Now I'm going to let's just zoom in here, and I just want to show you one more pretty good feature. Let's go back out to our main composition. Sorry, just put this back up to full resolution and back into our Rotobrush layer. So I've got the two viewports open here. Now there's one more feature you can use. Now this is good if you've got hair or a fuzzy edge or something like that. You've got something called a refine edge. If you go up to here, hold, drag, and down to refine edge tool. Now what this will give you is a new brush, a sort of different color, and I'm going to hold the control key and I'm going to drag the size of our brush up. So this is just a quick demo. If you've got, say, hair or something fuzzy, something very complicated, you can now refine the edge. Now watch this. If I paint over here and then let go, it will now calculate, and you can see it's worked out the fuzziness of my hat. Now this works much better, like I say, on hair or grass or something like that. So now if I press the play button, just to sort of quickly RAM preview that, it will do it with the refine edge tool. Okay? And now you could run through and say freeze that again. Let me just go back. I'm not going to do the freezing process again, but when you go, it then refines that edge all the way through. So I just wanted to show you that as well, just in case you want to use it. So there you go. It's a very basic run through of the Rotobrush. Now mine is a very complicated shot because we've got lots of different colors passing behind me in the background, which makes it difficult for the algorithm, the Rotobrush, to pick up. But in some circumstances, the Rotobrush can work very well. Maybe not so fast moving objects, things like that. But for sort of more basic shots, and when you've got sort of a nice contrast between what you're cutting at in the background. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Now we're going to move on to the preferred method, the more professional method, but it's a lot more work. We're going to use Mocha AE or Mocha Pro. So what is Mocha? Mocha is a planar tracking solution made by a company called Adobe Effects. Now for the past few years it's actually been coming bundled as part of After Effects, so we have it actually built in as an effect. And this is what we're going to use. It's a lot more effective than the Rotobrush, takes a bit more work, but it does all sorts of cool things. You can use it for screen replacements, object removal, advanced tracking, and all sorts. So let's actually duplicate our background footage again. So I'm going to hit Control D and I'm going to move that up to the top. and we're obviously going to get rid of our 3D camera tracking effect. We don't need that now, so we're just back to our effects for now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to apply Mocha. Now you go up to Effects, go down to Boris, Effects, Mocha, and then Mocha AE. Now this is the one that will be bundled with your After Effects. I've got the Pro version. It's definitely worth it. It's only a few $100s. And it's great for any freelancer or small studio or anything. It's used a lot in the VFX industry. So we're going to apply the effect. I'm just going to click on my Mocha Pro because that's the one I have installed. Now we have it over here. We just need to click this button to launch it. Before I do that, I'm just going to show you, I've got my resolution set to half again. I'm not using the proxy. Now when you're doing tracking, you might want the best data possible, like we did before, to be able to you know, get a good track out of this with the sort of edge. You know, it's not too pixelated, but I'm going to keep it on half now because this is full 4K footage, so it will work as 1920 by 1080 HD. But if you've got a good enough computer, I maybe recommend bumping that up to full. And you notice that when I run Mocha, when I click on it, it will give you this warning saying that it's not set to full resolution. But I'm just going to click continue anyway, and then let Mocha open. There we go. When it opens, you'll be faced with this panel. Just click start and you'll open up your footage. So here's our backplate, and there you go. It runs quite smoothly, especially as we've only got it in half resolution, which again is sort of full HD. Okay, so this is the interface. Now you might have some different tools up here. So you want to go up to your workspace might be set to essentials. So set that to classic to bring up all the extra buttons, and also go to view and go down to toolbars and then advanced tools. You might be on basic tools and it hides some of the buttons, so just go to view, toolbars, advanced tools, just to get everything up that we've got. Now there's a lot of tutorials out there, especially from actually Boris Effects, that run through using the UI. It's quite a deep program, so obviously I might try and sort of do a different tutorial that goes through something simpler, but as this is part of this bigger project, we're going to be using it for this shot. Now this shot we've got, obviously, as you know, is a very complex shot. We need to roto me out, and we're going to be doing it in different sections. So the best way to do it is we draw splines. Now you wouldn't just like you would in Photoshop cut all of me out in one go. You'd break it down into different bits. So I'm holding down the Z key now. I'm going to go through some of the short keys to zoom in, and then you click and drag. So what we want to do is we want to draw splines around different areas. This is the best way to do things. So we might have one for the head or even the face. You can have as many as you want. One for the left arm, one for the right arm, one for the torso. I'm just middle mouse dragging now. One for the top part of the leg, and one for the bottom if we do need it. And as this shot is so really complicated because I get to here and actually turn around, so our spline is going to change shape and my clothes are folding and sort of creasing as we go. So it is a very complex shot to do, so we're just going to break this down. Now I'm not going to have time to do obviously the whole shot. It did actually take me weeks to roto this whole thing out in my spare time doing different layers, but I'm going to definitely go over sort of one or two parts of you, which will be enough for you to repeat the process as we go through. So so that's the interface. Let me start off with our first spline, and we're going to do the torso, and I'll just show you how this works. So let's start with the torso. Now I'm just going to zoom in here. Now I'm quite new to Mocha as well, really, so I'm still learning a lot of the shortcuts. If there's nothing that you can see that's obvious when you're trying to sort of do a shortcut, you can always get everything from the main menus up here. So I'm going to hold down the Z key and we're going to zoom in. Now what I want to do is I want to pick a frame where let's see, where the torso's, you know, in view, and before we get to this awkward turnaround here. So we're going to go for something like let's see, like this is fine for now, and we're going to zoom in. So now we're going to draw our first spline. So we're going to use what's called X spline. So we're going to go up to this tool up here, click the little icon, and then we get our X spline tool. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in again, hold down the Z key, and we're going to start drawing splines. This is something you might be used to from using like Illustrator, Photoshop, those sorts of things. It just works a little bit differently. So let's just go and draw in a spline here. So you can see I'm using, I'm just middle mouse dragging to move around, or holding my Z key and left middle mouse clicking to zoom in. There's also all sorts of keys, like you can press shift and star to frame your shot as well. Like I say, I'm still learning some of these short keys, so they are different to other programs. So let's click back on the X-spline icon. Let's draw our first spline. So let's go into somewhere right at the bottom here. I'm just going to, sorry, when you go to the magnifying tool, you'll notice it does deselect the X-spline tool. So let's start by clicking some little splines here. And as you can see, you get these sort of blue handles that come off it, and I'll show you what they do in a minute. And you know, you can be accurate here. We're going to be quite accurate, but we can add and edit this as we go. So you want as sort of as least points as possible, really, but you do need to get the shape in. So I'm going to get all the torso. Now when I get here, I think I'm going to do a different shape, a different spline for this collar, because it's going to cause a bit of issues. So we're just going to go right over the top. I'm just left middle mouse clicking here. Now our arm is in the way of the torso. We're going to do a separate spline layer for the arm. So I'm just going to bring this down. We don't need too many. And when it gets to here, let's sort of neaten this up a bit. Do some splines here. One for the point here, maybe one here and another one. And when you want to close it, you just right click and it closes the path. Okay, I'm going to hit Z key and scroll to zoom out again. So there you go, we've got our first X spline. Now you'll notice you get all these little handles off here. What they do is that is the actual curvature. So at the moment we've done quite straight edges, so it's quite sort of like polygonal, really, if you like, and we might want to smooth these out. So what you can do is every single one of these can be smoothed out. So if I now hit the Control and F key, I've gone back to my main icon with my main move tool, which is this one here. So you can click. Let me just zoom in. Let me just zoom in to show you what happens when I'll pick this corner one here to show you that it really working well. So I'm going to click and drag, and can you see that the curvature changes? So we can get a dead sharp point or a curve. Okay, now you can do this on all of them in one go if you want. I could simply just select, sorry, I'm back on the magnifying tool, so don't forget to go back to your main move tool. So I could select all of these, and now I can just click and drag, and you can see how you can add the curvature in. So you might say want to add a little bit of curvature, but then don't forget you do have some points which you might want to keep sharp. So say if I did this too much, so say if I went like this, and you can see you know, you need a sharp point here, you can go back in and say just select this one point and just affect this one point. Can you see that happening there? I'm just going to zoom in again, and it's just that single point. Okay, so I might have added a bit too much curvature generally overall, so I'm just going to undo that anyway. Okay, so now we're back to where we were, and you just want to add maybe just a little bit of curvature just for now. We can always edit this as we go. Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about the splines and how we can control these as well. So let me zoom out a little bit again. Now I've got my, go back to the main move tool. Now if you move your cursor over the actual main bounding box, I can move these around. You can move it wherever you want to go. And I can also do things like I can rotate them as well. So you can rotate them into place, which is going to be really useful for when we need to do some more frames as we go along. Then you can do things like you can shear. Now I've got the whole thing selected. If I hold down the, I think it is the Control key, and move this, you see I can shear the whole box, the whole formation of splines. Okay, and then you can also select and affect a group of splines or individual splines. So now I can click and drag and say I might just want to just say move these into place. So you can go over here and just move just these, and then you might say I just want to rotate these as well. Okay, so you can just rotate them. And there is a key where you can actually change, I think it is, well, I'll have to look this up. There's lots of different little short keys that you'll need to learn that might be helpful. You can actually click one key and just move from this pivot point and do all sorts of things. But have fun with that, you know, delve into the manual and look up all the short keys of what you can do. And then you've got your individual splines, so you can just move every single little point around. Okay, so that is our basic manipulation tools that we're going to need. And now we're going to do our first track. So let's move out, let's zoom out from here. And what you'll notice that it's left a little green tick. that means that it's created a keyframe here. Now, what we want to do is we want to add as least keyframes as possible, really, but on a complex shot like this, it does get difficult to sort of limit the amount of keyframes. So let's do our first track. You've got these buttons down here. You've got track forward, sorry, and track backwards on each side, okay? So you can track this way and track this way, track backwards. You don't have to sort of start at frame 1 and track forward. You can do it from wherever you want, and you need this. Okay, so let's add our little first track. So let's go backwards. I'm just going to hit this track button and watch as it goes back. You can see it's going through every frame, and it's trying to hold the shape, and it's losing it already because our shape is really complicated. Now we can let this go as long as we want until it gets really sort of distorted, or we can stop and change the shape and then keep going. So I'm just going to let it go for a little bit longer. Right, and I'm just going to hit the escape key from here. Okay, so I've just hit the escape key. Now let's just zoom in. You'll see that it's off quite a lot here. Now what we can do is we can now manipulate the spline back into shape. So let's hit our Control F, and I've got my move tool up, and I'm just going to move this into place. Okay, and now you can see it's still quite off here. So this is where the fun of rotoscoping comes in. It does take a lot of work to get good results, but it will be a lot better than we had with the Rotobrush. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control F, or this icon up here again. I'm just going to reshape this, and we can carry on our track from here. So that's not too bad. So you want to manipulate as least little points as possible. So let's just zoom in on this. If you want to get this really accurate, we can now sort of say, let's just move this point into place, this point into place, this point. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit more detailed here as we go. Okay, so you can work, either way really. Let's just neaten up this edge down here, and you want to do that so it knows where the edge, or it knows where to keep the track. Now let's zoom back out again a little bit, and now let me just scrub the timeline, and you can see it sort of holds it a lot better. So now we need to add another keyframe, definitely in here, but let's carry on tracking backwards as we go. Okay, so let's just zoom out a little bit further and carry on tracking backwards this way. So let's keep going, and there you go. You can see it running through every frame, and it really helped it adding that keyframe in there. It's starting to lose it again already, but it is sticking to it. It is giving us the track. Okay, so that's pretty good. It's still going. So we can leave this going right back if we want, until you see it go really off. And I think that's okay to just leave it, and then we can sort of neaten out the splines. It's sticking to the edge quite well. It's going to keep going right until the first frame if you don't stop it. Okay, so I'm not pressing the escape key, it's still going. Let's just let this run through. Actually, it's not too bad, because what we want is the track is tracking information, so it follows the camera. The spline is actually the shape, how it changes. It's actually separate to the track, the cutout, the alpha. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this going. I'm just going to let this stop on its own, and there you go. So once it gets to frame 1, it just stops on its own. So now we've got this, and you can see it's sticking to it quite well. Obviously we're going to have to go in and add a lot more keyframes. And just another thing to note is that when I did set the track off, I left it on the default settings, but I have got shear on. I didn't add perspective. Perspective is, you do need it quite often. It's more for sort of shapes if the camera is changing perspective a lot, but because we have quite an organic shape, I found I got a better track not using the perspective just on me, on the body parts. And I've got the default sort of minimum pixels used 50. You can sort of have a look in the manual what this means. It's how tight and how the tolerance is, but I'm just leaving it at 50 for now. Okay, that's just a note. So we've got our first torso track here, and it's not too bad. At the moment we've only got two keys. It slips off quite a lot here. So what you want to do from here is look for the big places it's off. So let's go right back to frame 1, and let's just zoom in and neaten this up. Let's hold down the Z key, let's zoom in, and now I'm going to go back to my tool here, or hit Control F, and let's just start moving some of these around. So this is all right on this side. I just want to drag all of these and I move them out over here. And we're going to need to go in later on and really neaten up some of these single points. So sometimes it's hard to select a single point. Sometimes you just have to quickly select off, or I think you can hold the shift key just to deselect. Okay, so I'm just going in, neaten these up. And of course it's hidden by our arm here. We don't have to be neat on this bit or this bit, because we are just literally using, it's hidden by the arm. So this bit over here, and it's lost it at the bottom of the jacket. And again, the bottom of the jacket doesn't matter too much because we're going to have another spline shape with the legs, so these are going to overlap anyway. So now let me zoom out, and you can see another little green tick, and let's just drag the timeline. And you want to look for big changing shapes. Now I'm going to turn on stabilize from here. What stabilize does, instead of me having to middlemost drag and center everything all the time, it sort of stabilizes everything into view. Now this is the button for stabilize, this one here, or you can go up to view, quick stabilize, stabilize. Now when we play back, watch what happens. It moves the camera for us. It's a little bit a weird motion really, but it really helps with working. Now I don't have to constantly middle mouse drag. You know, we still have to zoom in and where we want it, but it's really useful. Okay, and I'm also going to name this layer. So this is our layer stack up here. When this icon's on, it means that it is tracking. So once we've done the full track, you can turn this off just to edit the splines. So let's just double click this. I'm just going to call this torso, or you can call it jacket, whatever you want. Hit the return key. Now I really advise you to keep saving as you're going, because you know After Effects and Mocha and everything does tend to, you know, as anything, it tends to crash when you've got too much information. So I'm just going to go save project, and you can see it just quickly saved it there. There is an auto save on as well, but I like to keep saving it. Okay, so now let's have a little look through. And I'm just going to go through this. You know, I could spend hours on this showing you this, so I just want to give you enough details and enough skills so you can then go off and track either this backplate, which obviously I'm going to give you. Give everyone all your own. So here, let's have a little look here. So when we get to here, you can see it flapping around here. We do lose quite a bit of shape, so that one's going to need quite a lot of editing. So this shape's here where it's lost it quite a lot here. So let's just zoom in, and I'm going to just Control F to get my arrow tool back up, and I'm just going to move these in, and we're just going to start adjusting these now. I'm just going to move this down. Sometimes I like to just move either some or all. You can see there's no, up here we did have a little L shape. We don't have that in here because the jacket has moved shape. So I'm just going to select just this one point and move that to the corner. Try and keep the points, you know, in the same sort of positions if you can. I'm just going to move this down to catch the bottom of the jacket. Okay, and then this will go out here. Now here I'm going to change the curvature, and that is actually only doing it on this frame. So it's really good how you can have it going from sharp to smooth if you want. Okay, so let's just move these out. Obviously don't need that there. Let's just follow the contours along here better, just to sort of just be neat. Let's go around here. Yeah, this one needs to move here. And zoom out. And again, it's left another little green check mark here. So there's a lot of slipping here, so you're gonna have to go in and have quite a few keyframes in here. Let me just check if there's any really, you want to go to the big movements and work your way down. So here is sort of quite off. Let's just move these. And while I'm here, I just want to show you a real useful tool. Now, if you've got a lot of contrast, it's useful. There is an automatic magnetic tool. Let's just say that these points on the spline were quite off. Now there is a little quick key. Now it's a bit wizardry and it does work really well sometimes. If you just hit Alt S, it tries to automatically snap to the contours. Did you see that? It can work really well and it can save you a lot of time, but you know it's not always exact. It is good to sort of go through, press Alt S. If it doesn't work, then neaten it up. It really does work well. Let's just try it on these ones over here. So say if these were just off, I hit Alt S, and you see now these two stuck perfectly, but these two didn't because it had too much distance. So you really have to sort of have a play with that. In some scenes it works amazingly. So if it's just off a little bit and you've just got it a bit higgledy-piggledy like this, you can select these, hit Alt S, and it does move these three into place rather nicely. Okay, so you know, use it wisely and sparingly. It can work wonders, but sometimes it just doesn't work, and you have to sort of neaten them up anyway. But it is great as a as a starting point for all these. You see I'm kind of messed up a few splines here, so let's go and fix these up. I'm just going to move this one down where it was, here, in here. There you go, the coat's changed shape again. And we don't need to get our arm in, we do need to come up here because we're going to have a separate spline for the arm. So I've sort of, the Alt-S saw the edge of this, so the magnetic tool saw the edge and it moved it out to the arm. So again, you have to be careful with things like that as well. Right, let's zoom out. So you can see where I'm going with this now, and I've accidentally selected off, so you just select it at any time. So you can see where we're going with this. The track's working quite well, but you do need to go through, you know, and really sort of start moving these splines. Okay, so let me just go now. I'm just going to sort of, you know, I'll leave you to sort of, you know, neaten these up because I want to show you some, you know, important points. Now, let's have a look. So when we get through to here, we only tracked up to here. Okay, let me just save again. We only tracked up here, and as you can see now, it's not tracking because it's not moving because we haven't tracked it. Once it all is tracked, you can turn this cog off and just edit the splines. So let's just try and track forward a little bit. I'm not going to do the whole shot again, but just so you see how we get across this complicated bit. Let's press track forwards this time. So now we're going to press this one, and we're going to track forward. You can see it's trying here. And ready? This is when I step across my body and it goes. It turns to rubbish there. So we need to hit the escape bar. Or, you know, you can leave it, but obviously, you know, you're going to give yourself a hard time. So what I did in this shot, because it does go back to being normal again here, but we do have to deal with this. So let's go here and let's start. You have to really break this down now. So I ended up having lots of keys in this area. Okay, so let's just start with, say, selecting them all. So let's select all of these. And let's scale this over. We can rotate this a little bit, you know, just whatever we want it, whatever we can do to, you know, to get this shape into place. And as you can see, we even get a gap here, so we're going to have to really. Let me just hit the Alt-S, see what we get. There you go. It actually stuck with it quite well on there, and you can see because there's quite a contrast between the grey and the jacket. As I turn there, it's not mixed with any graffiti, so perhaps that helped. So let's just zoom in. Let me just. Let's, you know, you can start speeding up this section of the tutorial if you want. I'm just going to really sort of now try and get through this just to give you an idea, and that because I want to do another limb as well on top. So this is really complicated area. This I'm just going to move each point one by one, and you will get quick as you do this. And like I say, it is laborious. I mean, I think maybe we should go here and then add an extra point, an extra layer just for this tail flappy bit here. Okay, so now we've helped it out a bit here. It goes really mad there. So let's just bring this in. As you can see, it's a lot of work because it's a complicated shot. I'm going to neaten this bit up in a minute. I'm just giving it the basics so it doesn't fly off. There you go, and it turns to here. So let's maybe get to here, zoom out, and now we're totally swapped over. This side was on this and this side on this. So you could effectively, if you want, do another X-spline layer and just start a new track if you want. I didn't end up doing that. Maybe I've given myself more work. I don't know. I'm not really a rotoscoper by trade. Obviously, you know, I'm an animator and designer, but this is a skill that every motion designer or even 3D artist has to do, you know, sometimes in their lives. And really, rotoscopers deserve a medal. I really think you do, guys. Okay, and as you can see, it's folding in a lot in here now. So I really, to be honest, later on I would probably go up to here. I'm going to add another keyframe in here. I'm going to add another node because we need more detail. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's just move this over here. I'm going to hit save. Now you would think it was the plus icon here. You've got a plus icon. It's not. It is this tool here, this little plus one. And now when I click here, it adds another node. So now I can move this in, and it automatically adds it in down the line. So if I now go this way, it sort of knows where it's going. You see this little extra node point we've put in. So it gets to here, and we've just added it. Oh, it really goes off here now. Okay, so let's just. You can see how the way I'm working through this, it's really sheared off now, so we just need to give it a helping hand. Really off here. So let's zoom. We're going to really need to go in and fix this. Okay, so we're just getting in the basics of this cutout, this rotoscope as we go through. Let's move the torso here, here, here. And you can see how this does, you know, can take hours. So I really recommend. Some people find it rotoscoping sort of relaxing. Just put on the headphones. I've been working at agencies before where rotoscopers just you know, just have a coffee, put on the headphones, and they just cut things out. You know, whatever type of person you know you might be. It's quite rewarding when you see it cut out at the end. Definitely, I think. Again, I'm doing this really rough, guys, you know, because I don't want this tutorial. They're already going to have to split this tutorial into 2, I think, maybe even 3. So let's zoom out again. And there you go. It's starting to follow a bit better. Okay. So we got all the way from the beginning, and I'm not even going to have the first 100 frames. I'm probably going to start my project from about here. You don't need to see me stood still. And there we go. And it's not. And then I haven't tracked from here. Okay, so you get the idea. And if I don't want to track from here, I could actually just hit this little out key here, and it will cut it off, and it will stop tracking from there. Okay, so it's very rough still. It needs a lot more going through and changing the splines. But once you are done, I'm going to hit save again. You can then hit this cog and turn off processing. And now I can go through here. I might say I want to go here. I might want to edit the splines, because the track is done. It's tracked. It's sticking to the pixel data. What I'm doing now is I'm just changing the shape of the spline, which is different. You know, it's very different. So if I zoom in here and I hit Control F, go back to here, and say if I add another keyframe in here, because I'm changing the shape here. Let's move these out. You see, I'm editing the spline, even though now I'm not having to use the computer power to actually track it anymore. The tracking is already done. Okay, so that's very rough. That's just the torso. So let's save this, and now let's go back out to After Effects, and let's just apply this to our layer, and I'll show you how to do that. Then we're going to come back in and do another limb, like the arm or something, so you can see it working together. Then I'm going to go back to my old project and show you all the different layers of where I did mine, in case you want to copy them or do your own format. So what we do for here is we just go File and Save, just to check we've got it saved again, and then we go File and we just exit. So back in After Effects, let's select our layer. Let's go up to our Mocha effect and just open up your matte option boxes here and click Apply Matte checkbox. When you click that, you'll see the rotoscoping that we've done just appear, and you'll see all the other layers underneath, because we have our rotoscope layer at the top. We've got it at the top of the stack above everything. Okay. Now, if you want to see the values, the black and white values of the matte, just click this box here, View Matte, and you can just see those there. I'm just going to turn that back off, and then go back to our rotoscoping. So there you go. You can see the torso working quite well over the top, just sort of rough cutout that we did. And if I solo this layer now, you'll just see just that layer on its own, and see the matte working. Okay, so now I'm going to unsolo this box, and now let's pop back into Mocha, and let's try another sort of, maybe the head or the arm or something, to see how it works in multiple layers. And then I will go back to my original project just to show you all the different layers I did and pieced together. So don't forget to keep saving your project as you go. So let's go back into Mocha, let's select our layer, go up to our Mocha effect and just run the effect again. Again, we'll get this warning because I am just in half resolution. You can go in full resolution, it would be better probably, but I am full 4K. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm just trying to keep things a little bit faster for you. Let's click continue. Mocha's starting. And inside Mocha, just click Start again, just as we did before. And then we get our footage, and it remembers our spline. There's our spline, torso. And if I select it here, we can keep making further edits. Now, I have turned off the cog because I don't want it to be computing and working out the track. It's already done for us here. Obviously, it's just done rough, but for this tutorial, it's done fine for the moment. Okay, so now let's add something else. So you can also turn on and off if the view of this gets in the way. And just another little thing, you can also turn on view the mattes here, so you can actually sort of see these as a little bit of visual representation. And you can go in and change the color of these. I'm just going to turn this off for now. I don't need to see this. Okay, so let's add another one. So I'm going to hit the Z key and I'm going to zoom in. So let's do Let's do this left arm here for now, just so we can sort of layer that up. So just as we did before, I'm going to go to somewhere just before it goes to this sort of this awkward sort of turn here. I'm going to go to somewhere like this. It's a good frame. And I'm going to now zoom in and let's draw another spline. So I'm just going to hide the torso one for now. We're going to go to the same as we did before, X spline tool, and let's just zoom in. And obviously we don't need any of this inside bit to be too neat because it's always in, my hand's always in the pocket and it's covered up by the torso spline. So let's go for something like, let's see, let's go back to our tool here. Let's just start clicking and dragging along here. I'm going to go here. And I'm putting in a little bit of detail around these clothes so that we can get in the main folds. One here, and I'm going to go in just a little bit further, and then something like this. And then in here, we don't need to be neat at all. I'm going to go up over the shoulders just in case we need some there. And then I'm going to right click as we did before, and then we've got a spline. So now I'm going to select all of the points, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of smoothing. You can see, as we talked about before, just to give it a little bit of curvature. Okay, and now I'm going to name this, say arm left or whatever you want, and now we can start our track as we did before. So I'm going to zoom back out and let's just see what we got. So let's track backwards in time again, like we did before. You know, just because of that awkward turn, I like to sort of use this as a dividing point really in the shot. So let's just zoom out here. I'm going to keep saving here, and let's just track backwards and see what we get. Okay, so here we go. That's pretty. It's sticking pretty well. Starting to lose it a little bit there. Do we need to stop it? So let's just stop there for now, and then let's zoom in and just as we did before, I'm going to Control F, which is just our short key to do our selection tool, and let's just start moving some of these points in. So we could just sort of click and drag the whole area just to make our lives easier, and we could try the Alt S key actually as well. So let's just go Alt S. Yeah, and down here it doesn't work too bad, but it sort of loses it here. So let's just go in, fix those. So whichever way you're comfortable with working, you know, try and experiment with different techniques, just moving, manipulating, or using the sort of, you know, little Alt S quick key thing, the magnetic thing. Let's move these up here. So that's pretty good. We might want to add more points as we go along, as we neaten things up. Let's just drag this in here. Okay. Let's zoom back out, and I'm just going to drag the timeline. See where it's gone purple? So we've only tracked from here to here so far. Okay, and now I'm going to carry on tracking backwards. It's sticking pretty well. As you can see, the arm is a bit easier than the torso at the moment because there's not too much movement at the moment. That's going quite well. So let's just leave it. Let's let it maybe. I think we could leave it to go right back to the beginning of the shot. There you go, it's chugging its way through. And depending on, you know, how many points you've got, the complexity, the size of the footage will depend on how fast it works out the track. I'm going to let it run to the beginning because it seems to be sticking quite well. There you go. And now let's turn on quick stabilize, don't forget. So instead of trying to chase it around, let's just click this button here, or you can go up to view stabilize as I did before. I'm just going to click the quick key. There you go. So now when we run it, it moves the frame around, trying to keep everything centered for us. So let's just go to the first keyframe and zoom in, and let's just quickly neaten these up. Control F again. I'm just going to move these over. Try and do big movements and then small movements. Obviously, you'll be taking more care than me over this as well, because you'll have more time. Let's just scrub the timeline along. Yeah, not looking bad. It's drifted quite a bit here. Let's just move some of these points in. I'm just doing them one by one at the moment. So yeah, again, whichever way you feel comfortable. Just doing this. Again, you can see it sets a little key, a little checkbox. And that's actually moving quite well. So over here, it sort of loses it quite a lot, doesn't it? So let's just quickly drag all these. Move that over. Move this one out. So I'm trying to do this a bit quicker so the tutorial doesn't go on too long. In here we're going to need a lot more breakdown keys. So like here, for instance, you know, you're going to need to get in, move these manually. Let's have a little look, drag all these out all together. This one in, so you can see, so as I walk, the cloth does change shape. It is organic, so it takes a little bit of work. Zoom out again. And here's a big chunk where we sort of lose quite a few of the, it sort of slips off there. Again, this keyframe here. And as you can see, it's sort of like a process of elimination, trying to use the least keys as possible. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'll just zoom out. And we get to here. I'm going to save again. So we got to here, and I'll just track up to here, because this is where it gets really complicated, where we're going to have to do a lot of manual work. So let's just track forwards. Let's just see what we get. It'll probably completely crumble like it did the torso, because it is basically swapping sides. There you go. So it completely loses it there. So we really have to help it out here. Now, as I said before, for this you could actually sort of just end the track here. You could use this key here to end it, and then do another layer if you want, and then go back to another one. But in mine, I actually just sort of painstakingly just sort of rotoscoped it. You can see that the quick stabilize option is zooming in and out a lot here. It's because it seems to, it's quite jumpy. It loses it because, you know, it's distorting the spline, so you will get that. So you might want to turn stabilize off as we go through this bit. Okay, so you could sort of, like I say, just stop it there, do another layer for here, and then go back to it. Because it goes back to it, I just sort of painstakingly went through it. So let's just go to somewhere like here. And let's just manipulate these splines into place. I'm just going to just drag these over, because you don't need to see these, because now they're on the opposite side. So this is going to be covered. If I just unhide our torso layer, mixed in with our torso layer here, you can see. So I'm just going to unhide the torso layer again, and it's this side now that we need to work on. Control F. There we go, and I'm probably going to need to start adding some more points on this side. You can see I don't have much detail on this side at all now. So let's go over to our little plus icon here, and I'm going to click one here. So I definitely need some more curvature. I'm going to give it a little bit of curvature here, and I'm probably going to add another point in sort of here. We need some more detail along here, and I'm just giving it a little bit of curvature. So as you can see, we've got this, and this is where it gets messy. So let's go back to our first good keyframe here. Let's get to here, and let's just bring all of these in. And let's just scale. I'm going to scale these down, then bring them in, and then I'm just going to try the Alt-S key. I'm going to do that again on these. Alt-S, no, it's just too far away, so let's just move these in manually, these ones. Okay, so let's just see what we got. That's getting there a little bit better, and it jumps out of place again here. So let's fix this. Move all these in, and now you can see, let's just turn on our torso, because we might be covered. See, the torso actually slips off here as well, which we didn't cover. So I could then go in, and we've actually got one keyframe here on the torso, so you will need to go back between them all. And remember, I didn't sort of do this too neat just for the purpose of the tutorial. Let's just bring that one in, bring this torso back out here. So now I'm working on two splines at once. So I'm going to turn the torso back off, go back to the arm, and just quickly neaten up this. So it takes a bit of work. There we go. So we sort of seem to have sort of started to fix this bit up, and we've got a lot of keyframes in there now. And then you would carry on from there. I'm not going to carry on from here, because you know, you've seen me do it now. And like I say, this tutorial is going on a long time, and maybe I'll come back and do just a dedicated rotoscoping tutorial. So let's see that. Let's sort of, let me cut this off here. So let's now click this key here to end, or this one here to end the frame. Sorry, it's this one, little one here. and as you can see, it's brought the purple into here, so it's just tracked this much. So let's just see what we got. Okay, and we're going to end it there. So now we've got 2 layers. Let's turn them on, because if you don't turn it on, it won't show in After Effects. So now we've got 2. So let's turn on this little mat here so we can see our arm. There you go. And you can see our arm left is at the bottom. Oh, I put left, I put an actual Z there. You can actually layer these like Photoshop. So if I drag this up, you can actually bring it to the top. And in some cases you will need this when you start doing cutouts and mats for moving objects, but we won't go into that now. So they're both on, the arm left, we've got the cog on anyway, and now I'm going to hit save. And now let's just go back out to After Effects just like we did before. So we're going to go File, Exit, and just give it a moment, and there you go, it pops into place. So now it's given us our arm and our torso together. So this is how we build it up. Okay, let me just scrub the timeline here, let me just let it catch up. There you go. So you can see how now we're gonna build it up, and we can add a bit of feathering to the edges and things like this as well. But this is how we do it. So now we need to do one for the head, maybe the hat separately, the collar, and the upper leg. So it takes a bit of time, but you get total control. Unlike the Rotobrush, you get control, and you can keep refining things and perfecting things, and just going back and changing keyframes, and doing whatever you want with that. So now I'm just going to quickly show you all the layers I had in my previous project, just so you can get an idea of how I put everything together. So here we are in my completed scene after I spent some time working on it. So I just wanted to show you all the layers. You can see all the splines in there now. There's a lot more work that's gone into this. There's still stuff that needs to be done, but it worked well enough for my shot. You can see all the different splines here. So I'll go through the layers. I've got different layers. I've got leg, upper, collar. I've got torso, one for the hood. I've got a separate one for the collar to cover the little gap. And you can see they all you know, if you look down here, for the torso, look how many keyframes I had to have in the end. Okay, so sometimes, unfortunately, you are going to have to make a lot of keyframes, but you know, you do get a good result in the end. So let's just show the mats there. What I've got is I've turned off this selection here, which is apply all mats, and then I turn off on this one here, and you can then just select off and just see just your mat without the background, as you can see. So it's quite a good, nice little effect. There's still stuff that needs to be fixed up, but if you spend some time on it, you can get some really good results. Okay, so that's all the layers you can see I've got there. You know, you might have less, you might need more, but I can, you know, I've got quite a few, and this is how it works. So you break each limb up, upper leg, lower leg, hood, just anything that helps you make things easier. You don't want to draw big long curves. You just break them down into simple shapes, and then eventually you end up with something like this. So I hope that helps. And you know, I'm not going to lie, rotoscoping, some people love it. I think they should be on the same wage as the Queen or football players, because you know, it's tough work, but tools like Mocha do make it so much easier. You can't imagine just doing this in After Effects, you know, trying to move every single keyframe on every single part. You know, it tracks it all for you here. It does all the, you know, in-betweens, and this is a very complex shot with all the folds and different parts. Okay, so let's go back out, and then we can move on and start putting the graphics on the wall and do the final touches to this project.
So we did it. We got over the biggest hurdle of rotoscoping. Now all that's left to do is have fun, get creative, and finally put some animation and art on our wall. So join me in part 4, where we'll be going over some of this, even adding some color grades and fake depth of field. Now if you've learned something from this lesson, I'd really appreciate if you could give it a like, and I'll see you in lesson 4.